right. 1 minute to go. Let's see. Sure that we're streaming. We are streaming. Make sure that. Some background noise here. What? Turn that off. Some background noise here. What? You hear the clicking? Turn that off. No, there's a little clicking. Anyway, it's not disturbing too much. Just let it go. Let me send a... Okay, so for those of you watching online now, we are broadcasting from the temple room, but there's only 3 devotees for the Sunday feast because we have a snowstorm here. So, let me just put a notice out that we're broadcasting. And then we'll be ready to go. Okay, I think everything's set. Okay, great. Okay, so welcome to Nugaloka, the Sunday feast, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. What? Yeah, they were all invisible spiritual personalities. Okay, so we're going to continue with our Caitanya Caritamrta class. We'll just change that right out of that. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vijana Pallama Jaya Girivadurari Girivadurari Jaya Gopijana Pallama Jaya Girivadurari Girivadurari Yasodanandana Jaya Brajajanarandana Yasodanandana Jaya Brajajanarandana Yamuna Tira Manachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Ballabha Jaya Girivara Hare Girivara Hare Gopijana Ballabha Jaya Girivara Hare Girivara Hare Yasodanandana Jaya Brajajanuranjana Yasodanandana Jaya Brajajanuranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Raya Kunjabiyari Raya Kunjabiyari Yamuna Tiravanachari Raya Kunjabiyari Jaya Kunjabiyari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabiyari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabiyari Gopijana Ballabha Jaya Girivara Hare Jaya Girivara Hare Gopijana Ballabha Jaya Girivara Hare Girivara Hare Yasodanandana Jaya Brajajanuranjana Yasodanandana Jaya Brajajanuranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunjabiyari Kunjabiyari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunjabiyari Jaya Kunjabiyari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabiyari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjabiyari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Pate, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad. Paramahansa Paravidakacharya Ositara Sitashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Sabaya Chaitanya Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shitweda Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kun Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vidadavadam Ki Jai Bhatiradam Ki Jai Jagadata Sami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasa Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnupadaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pachari Nivasesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarni. So, here we are at our big Sunday feast. And for those of you who don't know online, we were snowed in, so we only have some of the inmates here. Some of the inmates, those who are in the in crowd. So anyway, so we only have some people here, just the people who live here on the property, because there's snow and ice out there. So we're going to continue with our study of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. So, Maganati Mirandasha Garanjana Shlakaya Chakshura Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torch light of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So, let's go into the Caitanya Caritamrta, and I think everybody online can see it, because I set it up as a picture in a picture. So, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So we're reading from the 21st chapter of the Madhya Lila, and this is dealing with Krishna's opulence and sweetness. And this, of course, is in the context of a discussion between Sanatana Goswami and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the teacher in this particular regard. Usually he is the teacher, but sometimes Lord Chaitanya is the student, such as in the case of when he was talking to Ramananda Roy, Ramananda Sambhada. But actually he was still the teacher, but he was speaking through the mouth of Ramananda Roy. So let's continue, text 79. This is a very interesting story. Krishna sahadwaraka vaibhavanubhava hoila ekatra milane keha kahona dekila. Thus the opulence of Dwarka was perceived by each and every one of them. Although they were all assembled together, no one could see anyone but himself. So purport. The four-headed Brahma perceived the opulence of Dwarka Dhamma, where Krishna was staying, and although there were Brahmas present having 10 to 10 million heads, and although, as I explained before, this is multidimensional, so it's not that, somehow they put 10 million heads in these three dimensions, that would be very difficult. Although sometimes we see living entities with 1,000 legs, right? A millipede, or 100 legs, a centipede. And they actually are able to move them all together. Krishna is really amazing what he has. I mean, there's a lot of things we haven't seen. Like these little, I forget the name of the little microscopic creatures that walk like dogs. What are they called again? Water bears. Yeah, the water bears. But what's their technical name? It starts with a K. I forget. And they're just little tiny things, and they're all over your body, and they're all over in your bed. Yeah, they are. And they can't be killed. They can be shot out of a gun. Did you know that? They've actually shot them out of a gun, and they remain alive. They've frozen them. They've put them into some sort of quantum state, and they still remain alive. So there's so many things happening. Like Prabhupada was talking about, listening to class this morning, Prabhupada was talking about how there's entities in fire. What's it called? Tardigrade. Yeah, tardigrade. And they're all over, in your beds and everything. They're all over your bed. You can't see them, though. They're very small, but they're all over your hair and everything. They walk like little bears. They actually walk like that. And even within the cell, you have this Kanasan who walks. So, there's a completely incredible creation of the Supreme Personality of God. The more one understands science, the more one becomes convinced that there's God. Because, what's happening here? All these little creatures are just all over the place. It's amazing. What we think is our pillow or our hair or something like that, we think. But there's billions and trillions of little creatures up there. Yeah. I mean, it's simply amazing, Krishna's creation. So you have all these millipedes and centipedes, and you even have, there's even microscopic creatures, I think called they're hydras, who have many heads, isn't it? Who have many heads, but not a million. But, anything is possible. And, talk about living entities living in fire. When they go down in these, I guess, bathyspheres, whatever they call them right nowadays, to these high temperature vents in the ocean, they find living entities there. I mean, these are high superheated vents. When we talk about superheated, because when you have high pressure under the water, because the atmosphere sort of doubles, 30 pounds per square inch, double every time you go down about 30-something feet. And then you go down thousands and thousands of feet. The pressure is immense there. It would crush, basically, anything we have. And there's living entities living in this superheated water. Superheated means it's more than 212 degrees. Because water, when it's under a lot of pressure like that, is actually more than 212 boiling temperature. At this, 212 is boiling temperature at this pressure that we have at sea level. But actually, as you go up, I'm a little science for you today, since I can do anything I want with today's class. So as you go up in the atmosphere and the atmospheric pressure is less, water boils at a lower temperature. Does everybody know that? No, nobody knows that. Where's our college student here? You didn't know that? Wow. Yeah, high school science. That the water boils at a lower temperature. And finally, when you have almost a vacuum, you have these bell jars with a vacuum in them, water will boil at room temperature. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? And so, anyway, I'm connecting to Krishna right now. So when you get down to these superheated vents, it's like thousands and thousands of pounds of pressure per square inch. So the water that's boiling from these vents can be hundreds and hundreds of degrees or thousands of degrees. And there's living entities living there. Not with our type of body. I mean, our type of body, even if something is a little warm, we get burnt. Just like the other day, I was heating up some quinoa in my microwave. Sorry to admit, I use a microwave. And I wanted to see if it actually had heated up. Not while it was on. I didn't put my hand into a microwave while it was on. But I touched the water. Ouch! So I can only, this body that I have is really constrained within certain very limited temperatures. If I go outside today, snowstorm, then it's cold. I have to bundle up, or else I'll start shivering. Or when I was in Fiji, I had to put an air conditioner on, or else I'd start sweating. My body temperature would go up. So, very limited. But then you have other living entities like, the bears and everything like that. And the penguins don't need a hot water heater. In fact, they don't like it when it gets too hot, right? It's amazing. So, the point I'm making is that Krishna's made bodies that are acclimated to each particular environment. And, if Krishna makes a body acclimated to fire, maybe it's not composed of carbon, like these bodies are composed of, carbon compounds, which is organic compounds. So it may be composed of, some other material element, which I'm not aware of. So anyway, so you can have 10 million heads. And if you're really enthusiastic about managing things, then you can have 10 million heads. And you can really manage your way around the universe. Okay, so let's read it. There were Brahmas present having 10 million heads, and although many Lord Shivas were assembled, only the four-headed Brahmas of this universe could see all of them. By the inconceivable potency of Krishna, the others could not see one another. Although all the Brahmas and Shivas were assembled together, due to Krishna's energy, they could not meet or talk amongst themselves individually. Wow. Imagine that such a scenario. And this scenario was arranged to just bring our Lord Brahma down to earth, so to speak. Because the story is that he was quite proud. The problem is you have a position. Even if you're a devotee, you become very proud. So imagine if you're a devotee and you're in charge of the whole universe. You're the boss of the whole universe. Pretty good, isn't it? You become really proud. So he's done other things in the past, like stealing the cowherd boys and calves. So he went to visit Krishna in Dwarka, the story is told. And he knocked on one of Krishna's doors, and he wanted to see Krishna. And the doorman, being sent by Krishna, asked, what do you want? He said, I want to see Krishna. Tell him Lord Brahma's here. And Krishna said, which Lord Brahma? What's your name? Not only did he say, which Lord Brahma, he said, what is your name? Which is interesting, because Brahma, as Prabhupada comments previously in this particular chapter, Brahma is not a name. It's just the name of a position. And so Brahma gets really upset, what is this? Does the Lord have Alzheimer's disease or something? Has he forgotten? Because he's so old, Adi Purusham, he's the original person. So he must have, forgotten my name. And then Krishna says to him, Is everything all right in your universe? And Lord Brahma says, yeah, everything's all right, but... And Krishna says, what request do you have? And Lord Brahma says, before I tell you, just answer this question, You asked me what was my name and what Lord Brahma am I, So what do you mean? And so then Krishna manifested all these other Lord Brahmas in front of Lord Brahma, and each and every one of the other Lord Brahmas thought that Krishna was only in his universe, but practically speaking, this Lord Brahma was able to perceive all those other Lord Brahmas, and he became a little humbled. But the other Lord Brahmas couldn't communicate with each other. They couldn't say, how's it going in your universe? Yeah, I got problems, I got, a lot of headaches, with 10 million heads. What do they say, Excedrin headaches? No, they couldn't complain with each other. And that's interesting. What's the use of complaining anyway? Sometimes people say, is everything all right? I said, what's the use of telling you if it's not all right? Another thing I understood today from the snow, because some people were saying, it's so miserable out. And I was thinking, it's all in the mind. Because you tell yourself, like I was hearing Krishna Priya talking this morning in class, how this is something I've gone over with her many times before, how the mind will think something and then obsess on that thought. Because we're really, by nature, the conditioned soul is very obsessive, compulsive. Compulsive means like when they get into all these rituals, you do, but obsessive, it's really nasty weather. It's really nasty weather. It's super nasty weather. Oh, it's so miserable. I really miss the beach. I was just in Fiji, and I really I could go out, go swimming, and the sea breezes. And this is so miserable. Oh, misery, misery, misery. So it's so cold out. I mean, I can understand if it's cold and you don't have warm clothes and you're just freezing, or the heat's not working in the house. I mean, that's quite understandable. But it's quite comfy in here. Quite comfy with a nice tiger floor. Striped floor, Reminds me of the tigers in Bengal. So anyway, it's quite comfy in here. And so, but we can tell ourselves these things, and we start thinking, and everything is like that. Even like when someone falls in love, I'm really in love. I fell in love. Really in love. I must be in love. And it grows, isn't it? Yeah, it's a snowball effect. Like a snowball rolls down the hill. It just like gathers momentum and also gathers other snow on it. It's a snowball effect. So instead, you just tell yourself, isn't this wonderful? And it's not artificial, because you think about all the blessings that you have. I have a lot of blessings, I am in the Krishna conscious movement. I get to eat bagels. So many nice blessings. I have a whole bunch frozen in my freezer now. Krishna conscious bagels. So, I mean, even a little thing like that, you can actually just make your life real positive. Even something inconsequential like that. You just think, oh, how fortunate I am. I'm alive, I can see the deities. It's nice. Got some variety in weather here. It's not always the same. You can rephrase almost anything in your mind. And then, even if something unfortunate happens, like if you get sick, this is nice, Krishna's teaching me a lesson. I should have gotten a vaccination. I wonder why I was an anti-vaxxer. I was wrong. Guru Maharaj was right. Hope no one's watching. So anyway, isn't it? You can actually see it in a positive way, I'm realizing I'm not the body, Krishna's mercy. or even, I'm dying. It's an opportunity to hear about Krishna. I mean, just like recently my mother passed away. It's just like, and she passed away, people sending me condolences. I feel so sorry for you. And I could get into it, if I start thinking, oh, she used to carry me around on her back. I remember it was so nice. And, she used to give me little marks in my behind when I was bad. This is because she loved me so much. I mean, I could think like that. I could get into a whole lamentation. It's really easy. When you can control the mind, you can actually switch your mind from one thing to another. I could get into a whole lamentation. I remember, there are a lot of things I can think of. Like she used to, what? Chastise. No, it's a lot of positive things that I can think of. Obviously, my mother had a lot of love for me. She tolerated me in spite of my just, trying to tease the life out of her. Yeah, I would always call her. She paid for my house. She was, I get things very like that, and just get into a whole thing of lamentation. But then, because you control the mind, it's really wonderful. You could be happy. But then you think, wow, she got Krishna's mercy. I sent her back to Godhead, or sent her to the Hare Krishna movement. Then it's just like, wow, it's amazing. Krishna made the arrangement that she could remember it. So in other words, it's a question of the mind. One who can control the mind can be happy in every circumstance. And the uncontrolled mind is like the winds. It's just like, it's like a roller coaster. You don't know what mood you're going to be in every morning when you wake up. I'm in a bad mood today. Snap out of it. All right, so, and that happiness, that happy thought. So this is the context of this particular story. All right. Whoops. Hey. I swiped the wrong thing. Let's go. Go on. Text 80. Tabe Krishna Sarva Brahma Ganai Vidaya Dila Dandavat Anasabe Nijagare Gela. Lord Krishna then bade farewell to all the Brahmas there, and after offering their obeisances, they all returned to their respective homes. That means Brahmaloka. Deki Chaturmukha Brahmara Haila Chamatkara Krishnara Chatanayasi Kaila Namaskara. And that word Chamatkara is very interesting. That's used also in a description of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's 4 stories about Krishna's pastimes. Chamatkara Chandrika, right? That means astonishing pastimes of Krishna, moonlight pastimes of Krishna. That's a very common word. Actually, all these words here are very common words. Deka, Deki means, Deka means the person, Deki means to see. Chatur, 4, Mukha means heads, Brahma. It's very easy to translate this. Haila there was, Krishna Charne, that means Asi, coming to the lotus feet, Krishna Charne, Asi, coming to the lotus feet of Krishna. And Namaskara, Kaila means offering. Namaskara means respects. Namaskara, Namaste, like Namaste, Saraswati Devi. So after a while, all these words are very easy to understand. I mean, maybe if you don't understand grammar, that's another thing, which I don't. After observing all these opulences, the 4-headed Brahma of this universe was astonished. He came before the lotus feet of Krishna and offered him obeisances. Brahma Bale, there's a, Bale or Bolo means speak. That means Brahma spoke. Purve Ami Ye Nischaya Karilun. Before, Purve, myself, Ami Ye Nischaya Karilun. Karilun, I don't know, remember that word. Oh, decided. Tara Uda Harana Ami Aji Ta Dekilun. Brahma then said, whatever I formerly decided about my knowledge, I have just now had personally verified. Janata jananta eva janantu kim vahurja na me prabho manaso vapusho vatsho vaibhavam tavagocharaha. There are people who say, I know everything about Krishna. Let them think that way. This is another famous verse for the Bhagavatam. As far as I'm concerned, I do not wish to speak very much about this matter. O my Lord, let me say this much as far as your opulences are concerned. They are all beyond the reach of my mind, body, and words. And so what to speak of ourselves? This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-38, spoken by Lord Brahma. Now, Lord Brahma was appreciating the Lord's opulences insofar as dealing with this material world. And even the things that we hear about and understand with science should astound us and cause us to come to the conclusion that there's God and we can never come to an end of his arrangements, of understanding his arrangements, even material arrangements in this world, isn't it? How everything is just so much, so amazing. So amazing. From the microcosmic level to the macrocosmic level. From the nanoscale to the macro scale. Krishna kahe e brahmanda panchashat koti jana atik shudra tate tomara charivadana. Krishna said, your particular universe has a diameter of 4 billion miles, therefore it is the smallest of all the universes. Consequently, you only have 4 heads. You know, so don't be so proud. You only have 4 heads. You only have 3 PhDs. You're not Einstein. Srila Bhakti. Because people become proud of their power, opulence, strength, and all those other things like that. Actually, it's a fact. People become so proud they think they can defy. I was just reading about, I think it was a tennis player. He was so proud he thought he could defy the rules in Australia and just get away with all the COVID rules, you know, not be vaccinated and lie and everything like that. He just got deported. Because he thought he was more intelligent. He just thought, you know, I'm proud. I'm one of the best tennis players in the world. Who cares? Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one of the greatest astrologers of his time, gives information from the Siddhanta Shiromani that this universe measures, oh my God, I don't know how to express that. Let's say millions, trillions, billions, quintillions. 18 quintillion, 712 billions, trillions, sorry. 712 trillions, 69 billion, 200 million, and times 8. This is the circumference of this universe. According to some, this is only half the circumference. Okay. I accept. You know, whatever they say, I accept. Kona Brahmanda Shatakoti, Kona Lakshi Koti, Kona Yuta Koti, Kona Koti Koti. Some of the universes are 1 billion yojanas in diameter. Yojana is 8 miles, actually, approximately. Some 1 trillion, some 10 trillion, and some 100 trillion yojanas. Thus, they are almost unlimited in area. I mean, they're just big. A yojana equals 8 miles. That means they're big. Brahmananda nurupa brahmara shadiravadana evrupe parihami brahmandera gana. According to the size of the universe, there are so many heads on the body of Brahma. In this way, I maintain innumerable universes, Brahmandas, because bigger universe means more management. I mean, just practical. Ekapada vibhuti haranahi parimana Sripada vibhuti rakivakare parimana. No one can measure the length and breadth of the one-fourth of my energy manifested in the material world. Who then can measure the three-fourths that is manifested in the spiritual world? So this is only 1/4 of the Lord's creation that's being described. Tasya pade padavyoma Shripad bhutam sanatanam Amritam shashvatam nityam Anantam paramam padam. Beyond the river Viraj is the spiritual nature which is indestructible, eternal, inexhaustible, and unlimited. It is the supreme abode consisting of three-fourths of the Lord's opulences. It is known as Paravyoma, the spiritual sky. This is a verse from the Padma Purana quoted here by Lord Krishna. As I mentioned previously, the river Viraja is not ordinary water. It's a very subtle element that demarcates the difference between the material and the spiritual realm. So don't think of it like water. Just like there's a river of energy. Like if you have a river of electromagnetic energy, you can have that too, which is different. But it's far more subtle than, it's basically the river of demarcation between matter and spirit. In Greek mythology, it was called what? Styx. Stytz or something like Styx, the river Styx. It's interesting, isn't it? And on the other side, of course, on the other side was not the spiritual world, was Hades. That means hell, for those of you who don't know Greek mythology. Tabe Krishna Brahmare Dilena Vidaya Krishnera Vibhuti Sarupa Janana Yaya. In this way, Lord Krishna bade farewell to the four-headed Brahma of this universe. We may thus understand that no one can calculate the extent of Krishna's energies. So, Sridhyadishvara Shabdera Artha Guna Hara Gaya Tri Shabde Krishnara Tina Loka Koya. There's a very deep meaning in the word Tri Adishvara, means the Lord of all three worlds, which indicates that Krishna possesses three different lokas or natures. Ishvara means the controller. Tri is short for three. The original control. Adi Ishvara. So that means there's three, he's the controller of three different lokas. Okay. The word Tri Adi Ishvara means the proprietor of the three worlds, or the controller, Ishvara. There are three worlds, and Krishna is the supreme proprietor of all of them. This is explained by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 5:29. Voktaram jagatapasam sarvalokamaheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim brichati. A person full conscious of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor, well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. And Prabhupada described this verse in the Bhagavad Gita as the formula for peace. It's a very important verse, 529. That when you understand that Krishna is the enjoyer, I'm translating a little differently now, the enjoyer of everything, the ultimate goal of sacrifice and austerities, who's the Lord of all the worlds, he's your friend, your well-wishing friend who simply wants the best for you. He's the well-wishing friend of all living entities, Sarvabhutanam. And one who knows that, Gyatva, about Krishna, Mam, Shantim, he becomes peaceful, reaches it. Richati, he reaches it. That makes sense, doesn't it? So that refers, Prabhupada would use that verse to indicate peace on an individual basis as well as on a society-wide basis. The word Sarvaloka means all three worlds, and the word Maheshwara means the supreme proprietor. Krishna is the proprietor of both the material and spiritual world. The spiritual world is divided into two portions, Goloka Vrindavan and the Vaikunthas. The material world is a combination of the universes, unlimited in number. So that's very interesting. The Vaikuntha planets, generally, people have 4 arms. And Vrindavan, they look like they do in Krishna book. Generally 2 arms. Unless you happen to be a cow, then you have 4 hooves. Yeah, but they don't really do that there. Because they're really in love with Krishna. So it's like when you're in love with Krishna, you want to look like in a similar form, relate, same species generally, unless you're a cow or something like that. It's just like they're meditating on Krishna. I mean, if Krishna wants, but see, basically in Goloka Vrindavan, whatever they want is perfectly in tune with whatever Krishna wants. Here it's a little different. We want Krishna to be in tune with what we want. That's called dovetailing. Say, I would like to be, a scuba diver. How can I engage it in Krishna's service? Well, someone may ask me that, and I'll say, well, when you go down there, you can see all the living entities as connected to Krishna. So, I mean, in other words, we're dovetailing our wants in Krishna's service. But in the spiritual world, we're doing what Krishna wants, or dovetailing what Krishna wants in his service. Anyway, whatever way you can express it. It's just, it's just like if Krishna wants me to look like a cow, I will look like a cow because that's what Krishna wants. It's not that I look like a cow in the spiritual world because I want to look like a cow, but Krishna wants to relate to me like that. Because Krishna, and you have your mood. It's not that, Krishna says you should be a cow and you think, oh my God, I wanted to be a gopi. Oh my God. I mean, sometimes you get disciples who want like a really sexy gopi name. Krishna Priya will remember this one. And that doesn't have to do with her, but to someone else. Yeah, so it said, oh, I want a real sexy gopi name. Okay, your name is Bhumi the cow. Bhumi. Mataji. People get so upset. You go, Mataji. Anyway, whatever. I wouldn't care if people called me Pitaji. I don't care. As long as they give me prasadam, I don't give a damn what they call me. People get so much hung up on the names. I was in this conference yesterday, this North American conference, and one of the devotees didn't know that I was a sannyasi because I was just wearing this on top. And he called me Prabhu. And after the other devotees knew who I was, because, in Zoom it says Bear Krishna Goswami, he said, oh, I'm sorry I made an offense. I said, I don't care. As long as you send the donations to bkgoswami at earthlink.net on PayPal, I don't care what you call me. People so much... As long as you get the email address properly in PayPal. But people get so upset, because of the way they're called, isn't it? Like nowadays, this thing with Mataji. Who cares? Isn't it? Who cares? Whatever. Get a life. Isn't it? It's really not important. Anyway, so in the spiritual world, everybody just wants to do what Krishna. It's love. They don't care what they're called. They care that Krishna's pleased. Isn't it? I mean, it's a whole reversal of consciousness that we have in this world. It's just that I just want Krishna to be pleased. If Krishna wants to crush me by his embrace, or he leaves me brokenhearted, or have me as a cow, or has me as a cockroach in the spiritual world, if that gives Krishna pleasure, or what, a speck of dust, like the Uddhava, he prays to become a speck of dust or blade of grass, isn't it? And someone's thinking, one of the ISKCON devotees is thinking, speck of dust, blade of grass. I'm a gopi, isn't it? I'm a gopi. How am I going to do my sadhana? How am I going to do my raganuga sadhana if I'm thinking I'm just a blade of grass or a speck of dust? What sort of sadhana? I mean, who am I going to follow in the footsteps of? Isn't that funny? Because raganuga sadhana means you follow in the footsteps. Let me follow in the footsteps of another speck of dust to the spiritual world. No, you follow in the footsteps of Uddhava. I mean, that's the first point. You have to understand that, Trinadavi Sunuchena, Taroyavasish, Manina Manadena. It's just like, yeah, Krishna, whatever you want, I just love you. I want to give you happiness. If giving you happiness means that I become a speck of dust, if giving you happiness means that I'm miserable, then my misery is my happiness. What Radharani says, isn't it? That's the mood of the gopis. It's not that the gopis are just like some sexy associates of Krishna. It's their mood is the important thing. That's really, one wants to follow in the footsteps of the gopis. Doesn't mean you got to put the right colored dress on, or right lipstick on your lips. It means you got to really understand the mood. And of course, as one progresses in Raganuga sadhana, you follow the mood of a particular gopi in her service, but you're assisting. It's not that you desire to enjoy with Krishna. You desire to assist those who are assisting those who are assisting those who are enjoying with Krishna, isn't it? Assistant. Okay, enough heavy stuff. So, second, just one more verse, and we'll let the audience here rather than the people online ask questions, since we have an audience today, which is unique for my classes. Golokakya Gokula Mathura Dwara Vati Etina Loke Krishnara Sahaje Nitya Stiti. The three lokas are Gokula, Goloka, Mathura, and Dwaraka. Krishna lives eternally in these three places. That's interesting. So here it's explained. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that in the Goloka planet, there are three divisions. Gokula, Mathura, and Dwarka. So in other words, what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami here is doing is talking about how Krishna is the Lord of the three worlds. The three worlds, meaning the two spiritual worlds, Goloka Vrindavan and the Vaikuntha planets, and the one material world, and also the Lord of the three divisions of Goloka Vrindavan. Everybody understands that? Which are Gokula, Mathura, and Dwarka. In his incarnation as Gaura Sundara, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord, conducts his pastimes in three areas. So that's also another three the Lord is the master of. This is such interesting information. Navadvip, Jagannath Puri, which includes South India, and Brajamandala, the area of Vrindavan Dhama. So those are the three main areas. Jagannath Puri in South India can provide one area because that's where Lord Chaitanya spent most of the final years, or actually practically all the final years. And Brajamandal, Lord Chaitanya visited, and Navadvipa. Yeah. Did Lord Chaitanya ever go to the Himalayas? I don't think so. I don't think there's any. There's no information about Lord Chaitanya going north. North. So Lord Chaitanya's three places were Navadvip, Jagannath Puri, including South India, and Brajamandal. That's very interesting. The Lord of the Threes can mean many different things. It also can mean the three material worlds. The upper planets, the lower planets, and the middle planets, right? So when we talk about Trayadishara, that means the Lord of the Threes, or the controller of the Threes, it can mean many different things, including the three aspects of Goloka Vrindavan. So, anybody have any questions? We went up to 91. We finished? Questions? Comments? Yes, Krishna Priya. Maybe we should use a microphone, because there's some people online we want to hear. So I'll just repeat what you just said. In the beginning, we talked about many Lord Brahmas with many different heads, and then we talked about many Lord Shivas who.
So we.
Yeah.
So we understand that Lord Brahma is a post, and it can be filled by different personalities. At the same time, I've always understood that Lord Shiva is unique tattva, like Shiva tattva. So is it just that it's the same Shiva, but he's appearing in different universes?
Okay. That question was asked yesterday, actually, online. That sometimes Lord Shiva empowers different jiva souls to act in his stead. So they're actually empowered, just like Krishna has Shaktavesh avatars. So Lord Shiva, because in the previous text it mentioned that there are different entities who fill the post of Lord Shiva. And so that means that Lord Shiva empowers living entities, and he has his Shaktavesh Shiva expansions too. But, Lord Shiva, in that particular tattva, there's only one personality. There's only one personality. But he can empower, I'm not sure whether the 11 Rudras, when Lord Brahma gave birth to them, were actually empowered incarnations of Lord Shiva or Lord Shiva directly. It doesn't mention in the comments of the Acharyas. But, Lord Shiva can empower people to act. Someone can, like Prabhupada, can empower. It's not that someone becomes Prabhupada. Someone can act on behalf of Prabhupada. Like Prabhupada's secretary. Just like, for example, Tamal Krishna Maharaj used to sign the letters from Prabhupada as Prabhupada's secretary. So he was empowered in that particular way. In the same way, Prabhupada is a Shaktavesh avatar, Lord Jesus is a Shaktavesh avatar, Lord Brahma is a Shaktavesh avatar. So he's an avatar of Krishna in a particular category. So Lord Shiva has these same types of expansions. Anyone else here have questions? Yes, Temple President. Turn it on so people online can hear.
A while ago, I was speaking with a senior devotee, and they had said that when one returns to the spiritual world in a particular form, that somehow you're able to move between different forms, not as like personal associate, but like.
Well, turn off. Yes, that mentioned the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that the original form of people who go back to the Vaikuntha planets are four arms, but they assume different forms. They move between different forms. They can appear as monkeys, they can appear as bears or whatever like that, to please the Lord in different ways. Yes, that's true. Generally in the Krishna Loka planet, they have one form in a particular, it's quite a different experience in Goloka Vrindavan than it is in the Vaikuntha planets. The Vaikuntha planets is also a mood of awe and reverence. There's no intimacy there, like there is in Goloka Vrindavan. So it's just like, Krishna wants me to do this, I'll do this. So it's not, in Goloka Vrindavan, you can even argue with Krishna, giving Krishna pleasure by arguing with him. It's much more, well, it's intimate and much more, I say, much more pleasurable to have that sort of close relationship with Krishna rather than awe and reverent relationship with Krishna. Although many devotees, like Hanuman, he has an awe and reverent relationship with Ram. He's not arguing with Ram. That would be inappropriate for him. He's simply serving Ram in that particular mood, and there's, that's his perfection. We don't want to say it's less than the Goloka perfections. It's just different. There's a variety. All right. Should we end now? Yes. Turn it on.
You said that the mind, the uncontrolled mind, is like the wind. And I thought that the quote was that the mind is like the wind and it cannot be controlled. So can it be controlled?
Not the phone. Turn off the microphone. It's a phone, a microphone, a tiny phone. It's interesting, microphone. Micro means small. Phone means phone. Phonic sounds, phonos. That's from Greek or Latin. But, generally when we say phone, it means telephone, turn the phone. It's a small telephone. So yes, Arjuna says to Krishna in the 6th chapter of the Gita, the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, very strong, can't be controlled, more difficult than controlling. But Krishna answers it in a very interesting way. He says, by constant practice and detachment. Now, what is that practice? And Krishna answers that in the Bhagavad Gita. Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mamanas guru. Means thinking of Krishna, but when we thinking of Krishna in love, not just thinking of Krishna. Because if you just think of Krishna, you can't really control the mind. I can think of the deities. Oh, I think of them. My mind's still in control. But if I think of in Krishna in love, what would please Krishna as a person. If I think of Krishna as a person, not just as God, but as a person, then automatically my mind gravitates to thinking of how to please him. So that, you can't control it. It's impossible. I just sit and think, I want to control my mind. Finally, I want to think of nothing. And finally, I'm thinking of nothing. But I'm thinking of nothing. And I'm thinking of nothing. So I must be thinking of something. So I can't think of nothing. If I'm aware that I'm thinking of nothing, and if I'm not aware of thinking of nothing, then I'm not aware that I'm not thinking of nothing. Or I'm thinking of nothing. Whatever. So I'm not aware that I'm thinking of nothing, so I've actually transcended. But actually you're aware that you're not aware. I don't think you can get out of it. So anyway, I'd like to have this argument with the Buddhist. So so the point is that bhakti is a superior force. The mind, I think I mentioned that to you the other day. The mind is attracted like the flowing of a river, Lord Kapila Dev says. Like the river goes down to the sea and flows down the side of the mountain. It never, well, as far as I know, it never flows up. Unless you're in one of these funny houses in Knott's Berry Farm. One time I was at Knott's Berry Farm. You know what Knott's Berry Farm is? In California. And the house is tilted. You understand? But you're not aware of how it's tilted. So the water goes up. It appears, it's an optical illusion. It appears that, you put a little ball and it rolls up the hill. They said this is a magical house. Anyone's been in that house? You've been there. Yeah, the gravitation field doesn't work in this particular house. Because of your perspective, it appears like the gravitational field doesn't work. It was an interesting experience. You know, there's all sorts of optical illusions where something big appears small and small appears big. It just really teaches you not to really trust your senses. So, anyway, so getting back to the point, as the water flows downhill and the mind becomes attracted, I mean, it's like falling in love. The mind just becomes, boop, focused. I mean, I'll tell you my own experience, because I have never fallen in love. But my own experience is, let's say, when I get a new computer, I'm completely focused. I mean, I actually forget about eating until I get the thing working right. I just like focus completely, 100% on that new little device. Or kids with a video game. I mean, I always tell the story how sometimes I visit someone's house, which should remain nameless, and the child is playing a video game. And the child knows me very well. I come in, hi. Completely focused. Completely focused. And so, because that's not love, but that's a reflection of it. But if the mind is focused on something, then it can be controlled. And the focus of the mind on pleasing one's beloved, Krishna, Radha and Krishna, is actually, I mean, just like, all right, let's give the example of like when Mother Krishna Priya is dressing the deities. Her mind's focused. And, other times the mind may not be focused, right? She's not thinking how cold it is, how warm it is, what's for breakfast, can I get some kriplock? What's kriplock? I don't even know what that is. Anyway, it's some ethnic dish. Or, who's thinking what? It's just like, isn't it? Actually, it's a fact. When I used to dress the deities, because I was thinking, what will Krishna Priya think about this? I was scared. So but when I used to dress the deities, and you have this time, you have to be over by a certain time, and you have to finish up. I mean, it's intense, isn't it? When you're dressing the deities in the morning, it can be really intense. Or when I was cooking for the deities, I just didn't think about anything else. That's the nice thing Yeah. Yeah, it's working. I was muted? Oh my God. How long was I muted for? Not for the whole class, I don't think. Okay. What's that? Okay. Okay, maybe it's time to end. Maybe that's a message from Krishna. Okay. Whoa, what happened here? No, it's still live. I've been going for 1 hour and 11 minutes. Okay, thank you very much. Krishna's giving us a message. We have to end. All glories to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That stranger went to mute. Oh, the computer shut down? Oh.